If there's anything involving any kind of technological thing, half of the time it's me being like looking at the computer. Like if there was like a camera looking at me, it's always frustration on my face. All right, good to go. All right, so everyone's kind of giving context, just saying like their name and then your Instagram handle if you want.
Oh, God. Nathaniel, Waithe. God knows I don't remember my Instagram.
Nate, wait.
Actually, I think it might be Nate.
It is.
It is. Well,
No,
look
I
at
know.
that. You actually know.
I do.
Do you follow me on Instagram?
I do. I've tagged you in a couple of captions as well.
I am so horrible at keeping track of. I mean, technology is it's like a job all by itself, just keeping up with it. So,
a little bit, yeah.
You know, but yeah, I let them do the Instagram and the Twitter stuff. I just stick with Facebook. It's pretty basic.
Exactly. But you use it as a tool to help facilitate conversations and flesh it out.
I definitely do.
I liked how after the event, you know, even now, like a few years ago on Facebook, you couldn't actually tag individual people. You had to post on individual walls. So even that is really great in terms of just transmission of information.
Like after any event, you try to reach out and thank the people who were instrumental in making it happen. You know, the DJ, the photographer, the MC, the judges, you know, mention who the winners are. You know, I think it's pretty basic. That's the least you can do.
Of course.
You know, you don't just have the event and just be like, we're done, okay.
Well, because then it's like, what was the point of it?
Exactly.
Particularly, you know, the whole issue of, you know, people not getting footage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that is
That's
different.
another thing, too, you know.
Yeah.
If I can find a Starbucks and then use their Wi-Fi and like upload it, you know what I mean? So I can get started on that process.
Well, the one thing about Atlanta that I've seen that's different from, say, New York, California, and some other places, when our events are done, within 2 days, there's footage start uploaded.
That's great.
Because
of the fact, again, it goes to that whole like closed, this is mine, versus no, we're trying to build
everyone.
something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there were competitions. I remember even here in Atlanta, where you had to pay like a $15 or $20 camera fee to bring your camera into the competition. Mm-hmm. You weren't allowed to and then there's still competitions now that people try to censor your footage. They only want the official footage shown. You know, no cameras allowed and stuff like that. We have no such rules.
Well, first of all, it's counterintuitive if what you're trying to do is build something that will actually resonate beyond your immediate circle.
And true, and also I think too, it's a sense of control. There are some people that want to make sure they control every process, and I guess that's their prerogative. But personally, I don't do it for those reasons. I'm not trying to, control or manipulate, the process of creativity. I'm just trying to, disseminate it and send it out so that people can see, well, this is what happened last weekend in Atlanta at this event. These are people that participated,
Yeah, exactly. And like actually giving credit to
those people who've done great things. And we don't do a lot of editing on our photo other than maybe to cut out, the excess stuff.
Yeah.
But we want it to be strictly what it is. We're not trying to change angles.
Just like my dad says with car chases, he's like, car chases in movies from the 70s were way better than now because you knew it was like one continuous shot.
One continuous shot.
And that's way more impressive than like...
Yeah. We're not trying to change angles to make one dancer look better or to try to help someone else you look more creative than they are. It's what it is. We put it out there and the people
people judge for themselves.
And they just consume it as it is and determine whether they like it or not. So, and truthfully, I think for me, getting into this part of it, because I did promoting stuff when I was younger. From like 1990 to 96, I promoted like series of reggae dances and stuff. And actually, Hermes, Christian's mom, was a very popular, well-known dancer in her own right when we grew up in New Jersey. And so, I'm used to that, but getting into this dance thing was really because of Christian and his brother,
I loved what you said. You were like, everyone thinks that I'm like the stage dad, and in reality, I'm just here to make sure no one takes advantage of my son.
I'm just here to make sure that he's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We talk about music, we talk about dance moves, we talk about strategy. Yeah. But ultimately, I defer to him on anything that has to do with dance because he's the dancer. He's the artist. Picasso's dad can't tell him, I don't think I like that blue streak right there. I think you should make that yellow.
Yeah.
Or why is the head separated from the body of the picture? because he doesn't have that creative right to do that. So I a lot.
You realize that's really rare for a parent to not try to control their child's artistic expression or expression
it's different
at all.
Because when I was growing up, I had my own artistic talent, which was writing. Love writing. I still write. About to finish my first novel.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And
I'd love to read it.
Definitely.
I'm a speed reader.
And people,
Oh,
they try to
stop. But we can
go ahead. They try to tell me that, about starving writers and about getting the job. But I really, you know what I realized? If you're good at something, you can always make a living at it. But more importantly, the joy of being able to wake up every day and do something that you love. Just no amount of money that can be, associated with that.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents, their children are dancing. They think it's a hobby. But I'll tell you something.
They're like, oh, that's cute.
But I'll tell you something about that. There's nothing cute about your child waking up and dancing 3-4 hours a day. That's something that you're taking seriously. And I've always told my children, both of them, Nathaniel and Christian, that I will support them in whatever they decide to do. When they lose interest is when I lose interest.
Yep.
But I will never lose interest while they're still interested. So this is not the first thing that Christian has done well.
Yeah.
People know him as a dancer.
Yeah.
Christian was this close to being a black belt in Taekwondo when he was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So, and his brother, as small as he was physically, was like a monster all-star linebacker in high school.
Yeah.
And so I never missed a game. Was there every game, even practices. I'd go watch him practice.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned as a parent is that supporting your child is not just about saying, yeah, you can go to this event, but it's actually being there, giving them constructive criticism, telling them where they can improve, telling them where they may have lost the battle, telling them all those things.
You're showing them that you're paying attention.
Of course, because at the end of the day, I'll tell you a story of my oldest son. The one game that I didn't see the entire game was because it was my mom's birthday, and we're having this big 70th birthday celebration. So I'm torn. You gotta be at my son's game.
What do I do?
Gotta be at mom's game. So I'm at mom's party waiting for them to cut the cake so I can rush off to his game. And he said something to me that just stuck with me. He said, I'm there, I'm warming up, and I look in the stand, and I'm looking and I'm surveying, I'm looking for you, and I don't see you. And I don't feel right, because I always knew that once I saw you, I know game time.
Go time.
Dad is in the stands, it's game time. No dad. So, he's like, oh, what's going on? And even the people in the crowd, the people in the school knew. Yeah. They saw me coming running in late. Yeah. And they were like, your son just scored a touchdown. No, my son's a linebacker. Linebackers don't score a lot of touchdowns. Yeah. He stripped the ball, ran it back, scored a touchdown that made them win the game. And I missed it.
Oh, no.
Right? And he hadn't scored, this was his senior year. He hadn't scored a touchdown since he scored 2 his freshman year.
Oh, no.
But he always felt like that nervousness before a game, and he would survey the stand, and he would look, and once he saw me there, he knew. Yeah. That nervousness left him. He was like, dad is here. And so, and I always remember that, because I always realized that, even when I didn't think that, it was that important, or I was paying attention, it was that important to him to know that I was there to see it. And that's why if you look at every competition that Christian is in, you'll see me in the background, you'll see me in the pictures, you'll see me standing there. Of course I have other things that I want to do. Of course there's other places I want to be. But what can be more important than being there for your children? I don't know. I've yet to find what that might be. And so I'm always there.
Think, well, it's pretty rare, though, I think, for an adult to, like you said, kind of take seriously what someone younger than them is doing, regardless if it's their child or not.
That is true.
And the fact that, you show and you give versus withhold your support is something that is so profoundly, impactful. And I think that that's probably why your sons are so great.
And that's why they excel, because they understand that.
Because this is the thing. He's not, Christian is not trying to overcome or overcompensate for a foundation that isn't there. Exactly. So that's what enables him to be able to give so freely to other people, and for it to not cost him anything.
And that's why he's not afraid to to teach someone something or to share something with someone else, some opportunity, because he doesn't feel like they're going to take anything from him, because in his mind, what he has is already solid, and you know, he's already you know, established himself.
It doesn't cost him anything to share.
Anything. You know, somebody says, "Oh, how do you do that bone break?" Hey,
I've always argued that like the transmission of knowledge is also prestige.
Yeah, it
right?
is.
It really is.
And I'll tell you something interesting that happened recently. So, one of his crewmates, who is probably one of the top dancers, period, around, messaged me and he said, "Hey, I need Christian to show me some bone breaks to incorporate into what I do." And I thought to myself, and he was like, you know, I mean, he was like, but the fact that he understood that Christian had something to teach him, because he definitely has a lot to teach Christian, I can tell you that.
But for people to be like that humble.
Yes. And I think that is where it starts, having the humility to understand that this is more than just about winning one competition or you know, and I think what has happened to a lot of people is that they're more concerned about their popularity, their views, their likes, rather than be concerned about...
But what they don't realize is that they, like, by approaching it in that way where they're only talking about themselves, like, people inherently, just by nature, like, when you listen to somebody and someone's, like, saying what sounds like a tall tale, whether it's a story or whether it's them talking about themselves, we're always, like, our radar of, like, truth is, like, on. But if it comes from someone else, automatically, like, it already seems like it has a little bit more cachet or like substance to it.
There's more valid, there's more validity to it. And you know what? And the reason why we cannot be like that, you know, selfish, and it is selfishness, is because, I mean, Christian entered this at an early age, and I'll tell you, there have been a lot of people who have been helpful in his development. You know, of course he had the talent, people saw it, and you know, but you know, there are people who had nothing to gain by helping him. You know, they weren't being paid. There was no money. There was no prestige in it. He was 12 years old. No one knew that he was going to be the dancer he is now. And I'm not just talking about people in Dragon House, although a lot of them were interested. I mean, Glitch mainly, you know, Cyrus was, and that was his teacher. That was, you know, I mean, he would say, I would say, okay, I'm going to bring him over for a couple of hours, and then the next thing I'll get a call, you know, it's like, he's still with me, you know, we'll let you know when we're ready. And, you know, that would be 4 or 5 hours later. And he will take him wherever he was, and, you know, and incorporate, and, you know.
But that's a really beautiful thing, too.
Is.
Because this is the thing, like, when we first moved to this country, it was like, even now, there's only like 6 of my family members that are in the United States. Everyone else is spread out. So I grew up, you know, around my parents' friends who are also, you know, first-generation immigrants, and like this idea of really like a community raising children. Like everybody was everybody's kids pretty much. And it was like what you got to learn from each and every single different person. Not everyone can have every single good quality. So the more you can learn from people, and the more that like people are invested in the lives of not only their own children, but in the lives of other people, like who want to work hard and you have something to share. It's like, it's such a beautiful thing when people are no longer just concerned about their own blood.
It is, because the truth is, when this started, I mean, I wanted to basically hire Glitch to, you know, work with him and help him with different things. But it developed way past that, because no longer was this even a situation where he was being hired to teach Chris. He was just loving the fact that, and you know what he said to me? He said, I don't teach your son moves. Your son will make up his own moves. What I teach him is tactics and the ability to listen to music and to appreciate different type of music and so to this day.
Him tools.
Yes, to this day.
Tools, not moves.
As much as since Glitch has left for California, you know, I mean, he's no longer officially his teacher, and I guess Chris doesn't have a teacher in that sense, but we always consider Glitch his teacher. And we've always had a connection. Our first competition that we threw here in Atlanta, we flew Glitch back to be a part of it, because it was that important to us that he be a part of what we were trying to do. And that was the competition, actually, that we flew Betty and Ghost to Atlanta. So they were all here for that competition, because, you know, Betty's Christian's favorite dancer, a female dancer, I mean, specified a female dancer, and that's always been the case. Even before he met her, that was the case. And so,
and she's such a beautiful person.
We developed a relationship with her that's beyond dance, beyond any of that stuff. Exactly.
You know, she said to me the other day, she's like, what I love about them is that they make me feel comfortable. They make me feel appreciated. They make me feel like I actually have something to offer, and not just that me being there is like a burden or a nuisance or something.
Let me tell you, she can come to our house anytime.
Same with me.
Anytime, you know, and unfortunately, some people don't understand that because their mind is so narrow. You know, they always want to think the negative. You know, it's always like, oh.
But you know what though? This is what I think about, like, people who operate in that mentality. Like, nothing will ever they're not happy unless they have something to complain about. So it's like, it doesn't. Let me just grab that because it's misting a little bit, but we can still.
Well, no problem.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like such a. Your circle, your knowledge, like, for a lot of people when they get older, it's like their circle gets smaller, not bigger.
And the one thing that I've realized as I, you know, grew older and became a parent is that, for me, I realized that encouragement is probably the best parenting tool you have.
This is the thing for people who, I'm just wondering if I should get the laptop in the bag. Can you put the laptop in the bag because it's raining a little bit? Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like, and first generation immigrant, very like patriarchal households, you know, like when I brought home a 94, it was like, where are the other 6 points? And I'm not even kidding, like, for the longest time, yes, that's where my perfectionism comes from. So in one sense it's good, but for a very long time, like, I almost had to kind of like get over my fear of failing. I was such a perfectionist that I would procrastinate all the time, and I'd be so afraid of like messing up and looking stupid or not doing something well that a lot of times I wouldn't take a chance because I was like so conditioned to think that unless I was perfect the first time, it like wasn't even worth trying. And it took me years to unlearn that. And I think anytime, you know, you can create that space, not just for people that are your children, but for other people as well. Like, I know how much it means to Betty to like have your support and to know that she like has a place that it's like, it's almost like Atlanta for her is like a like a reprieve from like all of the worry and stress that she has.
And funny, she had her first session in New York, which is something that, you know, I encourage her to do. Christian and I flew to New York for his session. It's a session that he wasn't even competing in. He ended up, because we understood that was important. You know
That's why when I went to Dream Ring, like, I wish I would have realized that, like, if I would have known more, which I'm now starting to learn, you know, but if I would have understood, you know, like that, I would have brought people. You know, the next time you guys are in New York, there will be a whole crew of people.
But, and let me tell you the interesting thing about being here. We've been in Atlanta for 5 years, and I swear I can tell you all the parents that are involved in the dance world. I've known kids that I've taken them with me to New York, never met their parents. I'm like, isn't your mom concerned? Why is she calling just to check on you, see what's going on? It's just like, okay, take him and go. Because they don't want to be bothered. They see this as just too much for them. You know, I don't want it. And I can tell you right now, there's a b-boy, his name is Zapper. He's the head of HBO crew, and he has a bunch of kids and grandkids, and I don't know, nephews, whatever. And they were a big part of when we first moved here. That was the only dancers we knew. And so we drove like an hour and 25 minutes in the middle of the night to meet up with them so that Chris could be around dancers. And to be quite honest, had he not met Dragon House members, he'd probably be a b-boy. Yeah. Because his name was B-Boy Hollow. Yeah. And he was a b-boy. And what he has done, what a lot of people don't understand, and why he transferred the aggressiveness of being a b-boy, because b-boys are very into what we call stand-up dancing. Yeah. You know, and so he was B-Boy Hollow. And then his brother gave him the name Kid the Ripper because he was giving the business to some grown people at age 12. Yeah. And you know how intimidating that must be, to know that you're about to battle a 12-year-old that you think can beat you. You know, and just that feeling of like, oh my gosh. Even to today, when I see him battle kids younger than him, I'm like, oh my God, you might get a taste of your own medicine.
Right?
It hasn't happened yet. I'm just like, you might get. And
but
so,
you know what though? I have a feeling that Christian would handle it.
Have,
he would be like so excited.
Yeah.
He would be so excited.
He actually gave his name, the Kid the Ripper name, in an official ceremony to this young kid that's like 10. He was in Alabama now that's called Kid the Ripper 2. Because of his skills, and he is a part of this.
No, but see, that is how things should be, right?
And
oh no, those battery packs that are charging. Can you unplug the battery packs that are in the electrical outlet? I don't want it to short. It's like it was plugged in to the strips. Okay.
And so, in the whole official ceremony, and it was, and the kid even has a jacket. His mom got him a jacket.
I mean, but those are the things that like kids remember.
Of course it does. And Muriel Tarver, who owns a dance studio, she had an event, and it was a big thing. Chris was a judge, and it so happened that in the first round, when Chris was about to battle, guess who he ended up battling? The same little kid.
Nice.
Of course,
But of course he beat him.
He beat him, but
no, but this is the thing. But do you know how much it probably meant to that kid to even be in the same battle with him,
and to be able to
mentor?
give him the name that day, because the Kid the Ripper name was known.
Yeah.
I mean, he won a lot more probably as Hermes because he was older. But the Kid the Ripper was, he was something at that age.
And you don't forget that.
No, and I love seeing that about him and his brother. That going 100% all out, because that fearlessness, everything was on the line. But then at the end of the day, when it's finished, to be able to clap hands and give a hug and let it go and move on. I tell you, one of the most emotional battles I've seen was in the finals of this battle called No Excuses. He battled one of his crewmates, Blueprint.
Yeah, he was talking about Blueprint.
And they battled. It went to a tiebreak, an extra round tiebreak, and Blueprint won. It was a really close battle, different style, but it was a really close battle. In my mind, I was like, he had him after 2, but then it went to the third round, and I really did think Blueprint won. And it's funny because I am very objective and very honest. And the fact is, Blueprint had a harder road to get to the finals than he did. So I felt that Blueprint really deserved that one because he beat a lot of stronger dancers getting to the finals. Yeah. But when they, after the battle was over, when they embraced, it wasn't just a quick hand, but it was just, and I'm gonna probably send you the picture of
Please.
that. And this embrace, knowing like, because in a way,
First of all, you're showing respect for people when you give your effort.
You know what else? Because he is so younger, much younger. To enter Dragon House at 12 and still be the youngest by like 4 or 5 years still.
Yeah.
But the thing is, every dancer in your crew is a big brother or a big sister because they're all older than you.
Yeah.
Even if you're a better dancer than they are.
Yeah.
You might actually be the big brother on the dance level.
Yeah.
But as far as their age, you are. You were the little brother.
Yeah.
And Blueprint, in that sense, was the big brother.
Yeah.
And that's who shot his first solo video. Blueprint came to the house. We went out on the train tracks. So that was a big moment for you to actually feel like you could go neck to neck, head to head, with somebody that you saw as being, that superior talent. That everybody's seeing him, so you think you can dance, and he has this.
And like that acknowledgement, like that validation of like even being included into the same space in a conversation.
Exactly. And so for us, and like I was mentioning, like the parents, they had Muriel Tarver, and then Jamie Christian, who was my partner when we started, to bring dancers to New York and stuff like that, and there's Mama Chara, who does the Dancers Day Out stuff here with Decepticon and with BAM, and who else? I mean, that's how limited it is. You see some other people, occasional parent here and there, but I mean, it was so seldom that you saw parents that were and I mentioned
involved.
that involved, that will come and actually sit through 4, 5, 6 hours. I'll tell you funny things. There were times when Christian made it past prelims that we had to leave. Because it was too late. You had to go.
Yeah.
And I, at that time, I was married. I had a little stepdaughter. She would be asleep. I would have her in my arms. She was like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
The whole time standing there watching the comp with her. And we had to leave to go pick his brother up from work, and I would be looking, at the judges trying to see, did he make past prelims? Can we stay a little later just so he can do, which now, of course, making it past prelims is like routine for him.
Yeah.
Being in the semifinals, finals now is a routine for him in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, I've loved the progression, but more importantly, I love the fact that he's not selfish with it. That he understands.
I don't want to freak him out, but like it's such a beautiful thing.
Yes.
It really. It's like
if you ask him to do something, the first thing he will contact ET. ET,
no,
we got a gig.
The fact that in the same exact sentence of him saying yes to filming with me, he asked if he could bring his friend. I'm not even kidding you. It was that moment that it's like I knew, like that this was where I needed to go, because it's very rare for people to act that way, and particularly at his age.
And I'm telling you, and he is giving out what he received, because a lot of people were instrumental in helping him, and they didn't necessarily, and it's funny,
have anything to gain from it.
They had nothing to gain from it, and he is, in some ways, dance-wise, has surpassed a lot of them.
Yeah.
Dance-wise, but.
There's such a beauty, though, and this is what I loved when we were talking before. He was saying that, so many people, particularly dancers and stuff, they feel alone,
Yes, they do.
And he's like there is something beautiful, though. He's like, oftentimes it's usually when all of your good stuff comes out, when you're feeling that point where you're almost like, and I'm like, yeah, when you're hanging on by a thread, because I can definitely relate to that right now.
That moment where you feel like,
Well, it's that chasm. It's either you break down or you break open.
Exactly.
And then the moment that you break open, it's like you then realize that you can then, like, share that experience, so maybe someone else who's going through the same thing won't feel like they're the only ones doing it.
And you know what? In any artists, whether they're painters, whether they're musicians, there is such an emotional element to it.
Well, first of all, you're manifesting an idea into a physical expression, whether it's dance or whether it's writing.
But not only that, you're bearing part of your soul to the world.
Completely. You're exposing your soft underbelly. You're like, hey, don't kick me here.
And that's why I feel like, you have to appreciate, even if it's not your style, you don't particularly like that style, but you got to appreciate what they're bringing out, what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
You might not like crumping, or you might not like popping or rock, but you gotta understand, and you gotta, realize that, look, they're putting their all out.
And there's a cost.
And let me tell you something, there's nothing sadder to me than when I hear dancers say they're not gonna dance anymore, or they're done with dancing. Because I feel like it's like saying that you're done with a part of your own self. You know what I'm saying? And how could you be? How can you separate you from yourself?
First of all, if it's a beautiful day and there's like good music on, I don't care if I'm not dancing the best out of anybody. I'm still gonna dance.
When it comes to like, if you don't do well in competition, that should never be a gauge to whether or not you want to continue something that is so important to you.
Yeah.
Because it's all subjective. It's all subjective. Today, somebody may look at you and say, well, I don't like his style. 2 years from now, that might be the end thing. That might be the thing that everybody is looking at.
And first of all, like, for people who want to judge other people, like particularly their styles and artistic expression, I'm like, you sure have a lot of time on your hands. Why aren't you making shit instead? Excuse my language, but seriously, instead of complaining about other people, why not funnel that energy? If you hate it so much, why don't you do one better, and then we can talk.
I'm going to tell you how necessary guidance and acceptability is in a dance world. When Jamie and I started what we call Elite House management, which we were trying to manage dancers, and she was in New York at the time, and we were trying to, originally it just started with our children, her daughter Anna J, who's in Dragon House now, which wasn't at the time, but is in Dragon House now, and people that she was managing in Alabama, and Christian and E.T., who have always been, people thought E.T. was my son, because, we would bring him everywhere we go. The one thing, once it got out there that we were managing dancers, I think the last count was I had 96 dancers hit me up, asked me to manage them, which I couldn't do. I mean, I didn't have the resources, I didn't have the capability, I didn't have the time to do it. But
that there's that level of interest.
It went from dancers who were now starting off to dancers who've been doing this 10 years in. Dancers who were leaders in their own crew. Dancers who supposedly had management.
Well, that's the thing, because what I'm finding, and dance is just like the realm that right now, particularly since I'm making the documentary, and it's like visually engaging, it's like that's what I'm focused on. But the idea of bringing together like resources, and like sometimes you don't need capital, sometimes you need someone as a camera, sometimes you need someone who can actually be there, sometimes you need, just like how Max helped us film T. Well, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you sometimes just need that kind of almost like network to be able to, if you can't physically be there, that someone else can go in your place and help out in that way. And it's like the one-to-one thing, you're right. You as one individual can't help 96 people.
No,
but what if they're, and this is what I'm trying to do with that, like, virtual dance academy, almost create like an open table type platform. So if somebody has an idea for a video, a photographer can jump on, or a musician can jump on. Like, people can do it and not even necessarily have to physically be in the same place, because now the way that you can transfer files and edit and all of that stuff, like, we could have music from New York for footage that was shot in Atlanta, and then the editor in another place can put it together, and then you could have it in a couple of days instead of months from now. And
what and I try, I would review their videos to them. They would ask me to give feedback on what I thought they could improve on, and different things that I can do to help them individually. But to take on the wholesale management of all these people was too much, when it was never my intention to be, a dance, manager, agent, or anything like that.
Yeah.
I was trying to help my son and his friends, and those were not even friends, those we consider family, which is his crew and other people besides the crew that were close to us, that we were trying to. But even people who were in his crew and that are no longer in his crew, or people who were never in his crew, they were still instrumental in the development, because whether it was competitively, meaning that he saw them as a rival, and and he wanted to get up to that point where he could battle with them, or whether it was just them saying, yeah, you might want to consider doing this, or hey, and it's funny, because a lot of times it's almost as if somehow, as crazy as it may seem, as many dancers there are, somehow you kind of seek out that person that somehow mirrors what you're doing. And in a lot of ways, that's what happened with him and E.T.
Yeah.
Because, by far, E.T. started bone breaking before Chris. And I know a lot of the bone breakers, this is how Chris knows that he has a good bone break. He was like, E.T. bro, check this out. And E.T. would be like, yeah, that's popping.
Yeah.
And that's how you know that, okay, I got this down. Because the truth is, E.T., without a doubt, is a better bone breaker. Chris is a more versatile dancer by far, because his body movement and his ability to do a lot of different dances, including every party dance probably known to mankind.
Yeah.
Because his brother knows every party dance known to mankind. And the thing about it is that Chris knows a lot of songs that kids his age should know.
Yeah.
Because he heard them played whether by his mom, by me, by his older brother.
Yeah.
So he has a musicality that is
that frame of reference
for a 15-year-old. And a lot of people still don't realize that he's 15 years old.
No.
And he'll be 16.
This is the thing. I would definitely, and that's the great thing. He doesn't even need to play up anything, because of the fact that his method speaks for itself. But beyond just the world that he's in right now, like, I want, I would love for people I
really would want him to go do more stuff out of state.
Yeah.
We have a trip planned to California. And just because
remember we were talking about with you like a dancer, help sponsor in order to be able to, because I'm telling you, people would eat that up. People love that, like, where are they now? How can I get involved? Oh, let me vote on, like, reality shows.
There's a lot of dancers that they're local, not because they're not good enough. They're local because they don't have
financially.
The financing. They want to go to Cali, or they want to go to Texas, or they want to go to New York.
No,
New York,
like I said,
Atlanta, and they can't.
Do you know what's crazy? Right now, the reason, as I said to you before, the reason I'm here today is because my baby brother, helped me get here.
Yep, and help.
And it's because, you know, he sees like how hard I've been like working at this, and he realizes just like the set of circumstances, and he's like, I know that you would do the same for me, and I would, you know.
And trust me, and I've reached out and helped more people than is known. Well, actually, none of it is ever known because I never make it public unless they hit me on Facebook and say, thank you, Mr. Waithe, or whatever. It's because there's no need for it to be known.
No, because that's not why you're doing it.
Exactly.
That's not why you're doing it. There are some people who do that kind of, like, who do philanthropic work or whatever, and they do it because they're narcissists. That's not at all how you are.
Right, you know, that's not the right thing behind
you know,
it.
I don't think it's right either. But
I'll say, to the dancers, take the help. But it's not the right, you know, vibe. It's not the right karma. It's
not the right energy.
It isn't.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, you know, they think this is not my job. I have an actual real job that sometimes is in conflict with this.
Yeah.
There's been many times when I have to rush back to Atlanta because Chris has a competition and I gotta be there when I probably should be where I need to be doing actual work stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I gotta be here because this is important to him that I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to him to know that his support system, you know,
is unwavering.
And that is why I think he's been able to progress steadily and not feel threatened by any dance or any event.
Well, it's because he has consistency.
He feels that he'll be okay regardless.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be mad at him. I think I'll sit down, I'll tell him what I think he can improve on. I'll talk to him about why I think this, that. But always I understand that this is his path.
Yeah.
In a way, I'm just a watcher and a kind of like a...
No, you're like removing obstacles.
Yeah. And making sure that he is okay because at the end of the day, he's not only is he still a child, he's my child.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter if he's older because his brother's older and I still do the same thing.
Yeah.
He had a show at some club in the middle of the week. I took one of my friends there.
Yeah.
And we went there to support him. You know.
Yeah.
We were like the only people probably over 25 in the whole place. The place smelled like weed. It was hot as hell, you know. But we were there, screaming and turning up to show him that, you know, we're there. We're out here. We support what you do. Once he was finished, we left because she had to go to work and I had to, you know. But because it is so important, I tell people
that people show up.
That people not just lend lip service to thing and hit you
that's
up on
why,
Facebook.
That's
and say,
why
great job.
When I insisted on paying you, because
and that's another thing I was going to say. I've been here 5 years and I've thrown events and I've done stuff, and there's people who are on my guest list that come in for free, whatever, and I pay for every event. Though I can tell you right now. The only event that I hadn't never paid for because they would not allow me to pay was Blueprint and his girlfriend Gigi who's also in Dragon House. They had an event. They're like, no, we will not take your money.
Yeah.
But every other event for 5 years, I pay. I pay for me. I pay for Christian.
Yeah.
I pay for other people who couldn't pay to get in. You know.
That's what I do when I can, which is why it's such a bummer to me, like, to realize that my roommate was, like, ripping me off all this time. I'm like, I could have taken so many collaborators to other collaborators' events because I was using, you know, my expendable income to do this because it's important to me, and it's also important to me to, like, put my money where my mouth is.
And that's it. You know, it's that. Let me tell you, there's a lot of people that do not walk that walk.
Correct.
You know, there's a lot of talk about, you know, they call each other and you know, everybody's a brother and a sister and we're crew and we're friends and we're boys, but
then no one shows up.
of what people need is actual presence and participation.
Yep.
It's not lip service. It really
Correct.
isn't. You know, you can like my status all you want on Facebook and whatever, but it's the actual
and you know
and of actually doing something.
And not only that, but like I also think that the way that you engage, like the number of people that showed up to his event, the number of people that showed up today, more than other instances where I've gone to support people who do things differently and in, you know, ways that we discussed that like are more selfish. Like there's no one ever there.
Yeah.
There's only their group.
There's nobody outside.
And I'm like,
of the group. But you know, and the funny thing about it,
doesn't that indicate that maybe that you're not?
Even on a Saturday where there's
like
carnival
cookout,
here, jazz festival and all that, people still show up. And I'll tell you something, there are some people that I will always support because they've always supported us.
Yeah.
Now, his crewmates, Dragon House, every event that I've had, they come out in numbers.
Yeah.
Even the ones that don't normally battle, because battling is really
beneath them
at this point. The non-stops, the blues, whatever, they will battle. They'll showcase, they'll come out,
because they realize that part of their transmission of culture is also to help bring up and like even highlight, and even by their presence, by association, like give validity to the next generation.
Exactly, but also, I mean, there's people even outside of their crew that come. Will the photographer you met, he's did some amazing photography work with Christian. In the beginning, there was never any financial consideration. Never asked for money. Just did it. Even when he had clothing companies that would send him samples. He'll get Christian a T-shirt, hat, or whatever from these companies. That because it comes full circle, because then when we have stuff, we bring him in.
Yeah.
I've plugged his stuff, advertised his stuff, tell people about him.
Yeah.
And always give him credit for what he's done, because he came out and he did it without looking for anything.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that is a major problem. People come with their hands open, always looking for a payday in that moment. But sometimes you gotta understand that the payday may not come from that person. It may come from someone else.
Or from someone that you meet from a network of it.
And sometimes you just gotta do it because you love this and you love doing this. And that $50 or $100 they might give you is nothing compared to the fact that they appreciate what you do, and they put your name out there to someone who might be able to give you $1,000 or $10,000, which is greater than the couple of dollars that you may have gotten with your hands out. And
yes.
So, and
that is like...
And let me tell you something. We've been here for 5 years. And I can't even tell you the amount of people I've had to drop home, drop the comps. I've never asked anyone for $1 for gas money. Why? Because I felt like, as an adult, and most of them are children, young people. As an adult, I'm okay. I mean, I can pay for the gas. I don't need to get a $5 from you to drop you a couple of miles.
Well, and first of all, because then what that already indicates by asking it is like, this is a burden for me, and I don't really want you here.
So I feel like, because then some of those same people have turned around and done good deeds in turn. I might need them.
Well, because sometimes, in order to repeat a good example, you have to see it first.
Yes.
You
do. And so a lot of times, we have to learn to look and understand what the good and bad is. Because, and I told Christian this a long time ago, and I give him an example of a couple of dancers where both of them are talented, but one of them is going to always be talented in that small realm of where he is, because he can never embrace or understand what it means to do something for someone else other than himself. It's always me. And
you know what? When that happens, like when people feel that way, I want to be like, why are you making life so much harder than it has to be? Because then when you're putting all of that weight on yourself, then you do become fearful, because of the fact that you have you've put yourself into solitary confinement, and you by your actions, you have created your world that you do have to kind of watch your back and be suspicious of everyone because of the way that you approach it.
And I'm telling you, that's why if you go back to the beginning and how this started and the whole thing with Betty, is like, a lot of people can't understand that because they don't do anything for unselfish reasons. But anything that we've done in regards to Betty, we didn't have to do. But similarly, anything that she's done in regards to us, she didn't have to do. There was no requirement, there was no contract, there was no need, for her to do anything. She didn't have to tell Christian about you. She didn't have to do nothing. She could have just kept it to herself and say, "Oh, I got a video coming out."
But no, she introduced me to Damien. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, she always goes out of her way to like
and a lot of times
feature and highlight other people.
I feel like a lot of times when people see, sometimes she gets riled up, and I think people misunderstand. But the reason a lot of times is because people don't want to give her credit for what she's done.
Of course.
They try to minimize her. They try to kind of box her in.
Makes me angry.
Make her seem smaller, you know. And so, you know.
Listen, I hate bullies of any variety. It like, to see someone who is engaging with the world around her on such an authentic level and with such heart and like genuine good and like really caring about other people and like wanting to add to the world around her, the fact that like anyone ever makes her cry makes me want to like punch them in the face. You know what I mean? Like,
a lot of the people that she has come into touch with, especially from New Jersey, like Raw, CJ, and those people, they have become part of our family. They've stayed in my house, you know, because now, you know, she's introduced, and it's funny because she goes to New Jersey, and you know, well, she meets them, she goes to New Jersey. It so happened that that's my hometown, that I didn't even know them as dancers.
Yeah.
She introduced me to people who live in my own
That's
hometown
the thing.
that I never even knew existed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they've become a part of the network, and people see that, and they're like, you know, so, you know, it's always, how come you're repping them and not me or us? But it's not even that.
But it's the way that you're introduced.
It's the approach, is the fact that, you know, because
well, you already have a relationship with her,
exactly.
so
and
therefore
she can
when
vouch for them in a sense, it's like, look,
that's
is my girl.
This is the thing. That is how networking is supposed to work. It's not this like the way people think it is, which is like glad handing, like shaking people's hands at a happy hour, having like nonsense conversations that never really go anywhere. That's what people think is networking, but in reality, what it is it's someone being able to trust someone else's to then open up a door.
There's a terminology that says on the strength of somebody.
Yes.
And basically, I'm accepting Raw, I'm accepting CJ on the strength of what Betty tells me.
But do you see, this is what I think is so beautiful. Already the number of people just from this weekend, and just in the terms of our conversation, it's easily over 30 people. It's over 30 people, and it's all because of her.
And we brought her down here. She performed right on the stage, right here.
But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That is a beautiful thing.
Because...
And I only first worked with her December 27th.
And that's what a lot of people...
Oh!
Well, yeah, you can...
Yeah, here. I was putting this here so it wouldn't get rained on. Now watch me like stand up and it falls over. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm glad we got footage before I filled the memory card. I know.
Seeing you again.
Yeah, I'll be around.
Thanks so much for coming out.
You ever filming again?
Yes. I certainly will let you know the next time I'm in town. All right, bye.
But you know what? I'm gonna probably let you get Max because I know he's been waiting. But the only thing the main thing I wanted to say is that, you know, for one of the reasons why I'm so supportive of Christian and his brother Nathaniel, and my dad died when I was 5. I wish I had someone that came out to games, read my stuff, and say, "Hey, good job," or you know that kind of stuff. And in knowing what it's like to have the absence of that presence, it would be hard for me to go through my life without making sure I give them that presence, because I know what it's like not to have it.
This is the thing that really confuses me, though, is like, for people who are in that similar circumstance, or sometimes I think it's worse if the person's like living and like they're not there,
and they don't care,
and they're perpetuating the same cycle that they themselves were subjected to, and yet not like trying to correct it going forward. It's like I don't
understand how you do that. I don't understand how you know your son lives across town and you don't go to his games. You don't check on him. I mean, I used to pop up at his school to have lunch with him.
Yeah.
Just to sit down and have lunch so you can introduce me to his friends. My children have no friends that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
I need
to know who they are.
And my parents, you know, they both were working so much in order to be able, because the school systems in Florida were so bad. So, like, unfortunately, like, they couldn't be there sometimes for the things. But I always knew that they were doing that so I could afford, like, we could afford for me to play competitive soccer where I was going out of state and all of this other stuff. And now when I look back and I realize, like, the level of sacrifice and humility and just, they never once made me feel like it was, you know, a burden or like a hassle or I had to give it up. And they sacrificed so much in order to be able to give me a chance that they didn't have. Like, they didn't flee Poland before martial law was imposed to, like, have my life be small.
Exactly. And so, you know, so that's the part. And knowing what it was like to not have that presence. I mean, it's almost like, you know, it is almost like...
It's not really even a choice. It's like a purpose.
That's it. There's no choice for me. Yeah. I have to be there. I remember my son was playing what they call Pop Warner football.
No, I know. Yeah.
In Florida.
Yeah.
And you
That's
know the
why
distance.
I know Pop Warner.
Because he was in Lehigh Acres and most of the games were at Fort Myers. And I was working all the way in Port St. Lucie when the storm hit.
Shoot.
And that was a 4-hour drive. And every weekend I made sure I made it home to watch him play Pop Warner football on a Saturday. And drove back Sunday night to go back to work, you know, in Port St. Lucie.
That's
People thought it was insane.
No, but that's what love is.
I said, it's not insane because the truth of the matter is this is what they remember. This is what they don't remember the pair of Jordans you bought them.
No.
Or the shirt or the fact that you took them. You know, this is the stuff they remember. You know, and this is the stuff that's important. And I'll tell you, just going through the whole cycle of things, to going back to what I was saying and why people don't understand. So, going back to Betty and closing this whole cycle of thing, when we had Elite House Management and we decided to basically kind of break that up, just differences of opinion of
what
one
direction,
person wanted expansion, one person wanted to keep small, but anyway, and you know, it was always this question, well, who's going to go with who, whatever. Obviously, people knew that E.T. Chris would, you know, they're close to me, whatever. And Betty, obviously, you know. But she posted something on Facebook that I tell you, I've never forgotten. And I know people probably read it and thought to themselves, well, what the heck is that about? She said, I will follow you to the end of the world. And, you know, for someone to say that's not even your child, you know, a Christian could say that because, you know, I'm his dad. But to know that she actually felt that way, like, look, there's no question about who I'm with. I will follow you to the end of the world. And I read that and I thought to myself, like, wow. Because it meant that much to her. And people, you know, people don't understand it because, you know, I mean, you know, sometimes she had this persona of being standoffish. But the reason why is because
she's been fucked over.
That's it.
You know?
So,
like,
and they don't understand
and
that.
the fact that she's still, like,
she was still trying to help somebody if they needed it. But see, when people see that, and I tell people all the time, you know, because people have this mindset that everything is social. It's like, oh, you know, it's because this person's your friend or this person like you, this, like that. No. That's why. No, it's because she understood that when I did what I did for her, I didn't have to. You know what I'm saying? When we had these conversations, 3 o'clock in the morning when she needed someone to talk to, that wasn't my place. That was about dance and management. I could have just said, look, I don't,
my hours are...
That's your personal business, and we don't need to talk about that. But the truth of the matter is either you're there or you're not there for someone. Yeah. And sometimes you don't get to choose what you're there for them for. You're just there.
Wow.
You don't get to select, well, I'm
like,
going to be here
I'm
for
gonna
you
do
and this and this.
I only want the good
things. But in regards to that other stuff that you're dealing with, you're on your own with that.
Because
life doesn't work that way.
You cannot separate variables.
So either you're there or you're not.
Yeah.
So when people read that and they be like, oh my God, what the heck does that mean? It means that she understands that this relationship is beyond dance.
Yes.
It's beyond all this petty social stuff.
No, it's you as human beings.
And it's about being honest with each other. Like, you know, to say, you know, that you can tell, like, you know, when you felt someone is done, you know, it's like, hey, you shouldn't take that route, but it's without judgment. Yes. Because you got to understand it. At the end of the day, we all have to walk that path, and we got to live our own life according to how we see fit.
Yeah.
According to how we see fit, and we don't get to impose, you know, our beliefs on other people. All we get to do is be a part of their life. A lot of
people would disagree with that.
No. You know what? You can try it, but in the end of the day, we're made individuals for a reason. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We've given our own mind, our own purpose, you know, our own life to live. For the most part, we come into this world, even when you come in as a twin, you still come into this world by yourself. And to be quite honest, no matter how many relationships you have, how many boyfriends, how many kids you have, whatever. At the end of the day,
it's you.
It's just you. Because in the middle of the night, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock in the morning,
you're the only one there.
You're there by yourself.
And this is why, like, it's so important. Benny and I have talked about this. It's so important. Like, your 10% might impress other people, but you yourself know whether it's what you're capable of.
Exactly.
And that is the only, like, scorecard that I keep, is, like, knowing whether or not at the end of each day that, like, I gave what I could.
Exactly. And you know what?
Because I might only sleep for 3 hours because I'm waking up to drive back. But guess what? I sleep soundly. I sleep well. People are like, oh, you look great. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm happy.
And I'll tell you this. In this dance community, there's a lot of people that will say to you as an individual, and I'm just going to say it, you can edit it out. They'll be like, well, don't fuck with this person, or don't fuck with that person. You don't want to deal with them. But nobody tells me who to deal with.
Yeah.
I deal with them based on my own feelings, my own,
of course,
my own intuition, my own vibe that I get from them. You might have had a different relationship with them, and some things may have gone wrong, but that's your relationship with them.
Exactly.
You don't get to dictate to me how I live my life. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the
same
day,
thing. Perfect example. I introduce, and it's funny because I don't know if they're I introduced a friend of mine to the same group that I'm having issues with before there were issues. Mm-hmm. And he's still working with them. And I was like, listen, just make sure you get releases signed and all of that stuff. I'm like, make sure that you protect yourself. I'm like, I'm personally not going to dedicate any more time or resources or whatever. I'm like, but you're a grown man. You can make your own decisions.
And at the end of the day, we all have to.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I'm never going to tell anyone to not do whatever. Because I don't care. It doesn't matter.
One of the most false concepts out there is this concept or belief that somehow, my enemy's enemy is my friend, or my friend's enemy is my enemy. Because I'll tell you this, your friend's enemy could be your friend and enemy. You know what I'm saying? You got to judge that for yourself. You cannot go bringing in all of people's baggage into your life.
First of all, I don't even have the memory. I've had a lot of concussions. Like, my short-term memory, I can't remember all of those details of who's mad at whom or whatever.
At the end of the day, you got to deal with people the way they deal with you. Be smart. Be cautious. But at the end of the day, it's about your own human relationship with that person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you don't have to understand the relationship I have with E.T. or the relationship I might have with Glitch, or I might have with Bam, or with Betty or Raul, whoever it is, the dancer, you see, and you wonder, well, why it is thing. I mean, even
first of all, I wouldn't think like that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But there's people that do.
Yeah.
Why you liking this person from Fitness Pod video, or why are you sharing, this person's video, or why are you sharing that person's video? Or what's the deal with you and the BSV people, or why it is that you sharing the NLS people video, or why you chummy with this person? Because that's my business. That's my own personal relationship with them. You got to worry about your own relationship with them. That has nothing to do with me.
Nothing.
At the end of the day, that has nothing to do with me. And I appreciate, just to say, I appreciate all of the people who come out and videos, because sometimes they pay to come into these events, video these events. Yeah, people know. I know they get, stuff from YouTube for posting it, but a lot of the times they're doing this at their own expense, their own time. They're editing this stuff, and a lot of times they're not even getting a thank you from a lot of people. And the dancers that travel out of town at their own expense to compete, and when there's no money involved or not substantial money involved for them. And I appreciate it, and I understand that. That's why when I try to bring someone from out in town, I try to fly them in if I can. I try to do something for them, make sure they have some place to stay. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these people are doing this because they love it. There's not a lot of people that are just running around talking about, I'm just doing this for the money, because for the most part, most of them don't see that kind of money until they get to a whole nother level, which you never get to if all you're thinking about is money.
Correct.
Correct. That's it, but it was nice. And it actually was great meeting you. I mean, it's almost accidentally on purpose. Because I saw you at Loud, didn't really speak to you. I was, as a dad, I'm always just excited and into what he's doing. And just, and then, and then when Betty and then she told me who you were, I was like, yes, I remember. And then it just came.
You're like, I
full
remember that
circle.
girl laying on the floor.
Oh yes,
and by the end of it, she was in the middle. How did she
I was
manage
always
that?
say that. I was like, here she is, in some ballet position with her skirt spread over her legs and the camera out, and I'm like,
who is this person?
I was like, I don't know, but she seemed to be intent and getting the correct footage.
Yeah.
And so, at the end of the day, you know, I look at this and I say, you know, with Christian, I said, I feel like he's on a good path. I want to keep him on that path.
Yeah.
You know, I marvel sometimes when I see how far he's come at such a young age.
It's really awesome to watch.
And you know, he chose his first session, and and the reason I want him to do that is to understand that there's more ways, that there's more to it than just the dancers. There's the judges, there's the people who throw the events. There's a whole support thing that goes into this whole dance thing. And I mean, look, I've with my boys, you know, him and Nate. When it comes to effort, never been disappointed. I mean, they go 100%, and I'm like the biggest fan. And you see me in the background,
like,
and I'm screaming. And I swear, I tell people all the time, I look like a lunatic when the videos are shot. I'm in the background carrying on with the most, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is embarrassing.
No.
But at the end of the day, when I think about it, I just kind of laugh and say, well, hey, that's what parents do.
Well,
that's what,
this is the thing.
You know.
Your sons will never question once about how much you care about them, which, you know, is probably the absolute best gift that you can ever give a child.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, to know that, hey, you know, whatever it is that I was interested in, he was there to support me.
Yeah.
And he didn't minimize it. He didn't say, dance. You know, who can make a living out of dance? Never would I say that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think it's more than just what you do. It's a part of you. So how can I reject a part of you?
Wow.
You know, so that's it.
And on that note, that's like a pull the pin on the grenade and then throw it behind you and don't even look at it, right? You're like, I already know it blew up the bridge. I don't need to.